fence replacement, plant screening, subject premises located in the industrial zone. Good evening. State your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Gina Rickon, DKR Shores, here to represent Riverside Landings. We have the address of the property is 363 River Ave.
So the record should reflect that we did meet with the applicant at the work session. We went over the plan pretty much in detail. But for the benefit of our audience here, could you please just review exactly what it is you want to do? And anything else you want to present to the board?
The property is located on the corner of River Avenue and Crescent Street. As you are aware, it used to be owned by the Davis property
A
movers.
portion of it was a Davis property, and the major portion of it was the Hess property.
It's located in an industrial E zone. It's currently still being used industrial. As you can see, we're here pending application in front of you for first legalizing a chain link fence and 3 gates that was replaced, as well as adding additional arborvitae screenings. We also are making application for proposal to remove dilapidated timber bulkheading of 319 linear feet. There's also a very large concrete slab that's collapsing. The timber bulkheading, 2,542 square feet, that's proposed to be removed. We're actually going to realign and reconfigure the boat basin by removing 2,598 cubic yards of dredged spoil and we're straightening out the bulkhead and driving new steel sheeting of 314 linear feet with a 15-foot return. Part of the dilapidated timber bulkhead to the north, we're actually cutting flush. That's a 32-foot section because there's an area of high intertidal marsh in the area we don't want it to serve. Also, additionally, the northern section of bulkhead, we're driving steel sheets with helical anchors to cause the least amount of disturbance to the backrest and the other high marsh plantings in the area. During the project, in the area of the collapsing concrete pad, we're actually putting in a 32 by 20 low sill section that mimics the section to the south that provides a landing area for offloading barges and loading. That's primarily what the site is being used for. Harborside Landings is a sister company of Chesterfield Associates, probably the biggest company on Long Island that deals with a lot of hurricane scene work. I've worked with Chesterfield for 25 years, and they also work for different companies like Coast Guard, DOT, and other municipalities as well for repair and hurricane work. So this site, like I said, is mainly used slightly for some storage, timber bulking, whales, we don't really use timber anymore. Sometimes we do, but usually we don't. We use a new vinyl corrugated bulkheading. So it would be stockpiled temporarily with some pilings to load onto barges. Temporary storage, I don't think need. What do you think?
Again, it all has to do with the amount of business we have on the Barrier Beach, which we have Ocean Beach this winter, there's salt air. We've got some Coast Guard work at Moses Coast Guard Station, we have some other National Park Service. The property we bought so we can service all what we've got on the Barrier Beach. We have our main business is in Westhampton Beach, we've got 15 acres there. This is the first waterfront property we've had, and we've got major floating assets, and we were successful enough to be able to purchase this property from Hess. Being in a marine industrial zone, we felt that we were a good fit for what we're doing. We don't have any intention at this point now to build any structures that weren't already there. There's one barn, it's on Davis property, that's about it. And again, at any given time, there might be nothing there, and then depending upon our workload, there could be stacks of lumber piled up that might only sit there for 2 weeks at the most, as we're feeding the work on Barrier Beach. And then there could be a time coming, God forbid, where we don't use the property at all because we don't have any work on it. I mean, with Hurricane Sandy and all the grants that have been done, there's a substantial amount of work, and again, for the last three or 4 years, we've been very successful bidders on the work over there. My dad started working over there in the early 60s, he started the business, and then my brother and I are doing it now. But again, our intention with the property is just to stake materials it out. It needs to happen somewhere. It's always been an industrial property. We just want to realign the bulkheads. We have replaced the fence in kind, in place. Unfortunately, we're looking for an approval after the fact. We apologize for that. We want to make the property secure. A lot of fence was dilapidated and falling over. And we want to make the property secure for us as well as the public. And that's about it. We don't have any plans on applying for any kind of building structures or anything at this point.
Have you guys begun to make application with the New York State DEC and the Army Corps of Engineers?
We have permits in place
Yes,
for the
sir.
DEC.
You have your permits from the
Yes,
DEC?
we do.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
and you should
I
have
believe I
copies of it.
copied
Yeah.
it with the application, a copy of the permit. Or I can forward additional copies of the meetings.
Oh, yeah, you should have stamped drawings of the New York State DEC approved drawings.
And you've made your application to the Army Corps of
Yes.
Engineers, I guess?
Yes, sir.
They can be a little slow.
Yeah, I don't have a computer.
That's an
to stop.
understatement.
A little bit slow.
Will you store any, I don't believe it's even used anymore, you don't use creosote at all anymore, right?
No creosote. There is CCA there, which is still approved as for use here in town of Brookhaven. There's no creosote anymore.
Do you intend to have boats and things stored there, or are you?
Well, as you can see from the property, we own a bottom out into the channel, and yes, there'll be a landing craft or two there at times, and then a barge or two. Crane barges and as well as material barges.
No intentions to rent out spaces to people?
No, we have no intentions of having a marina at all. Again, it's for our own purpose.
This is not there.
How close is this to the end of the river? So I'm trying to.
It's probably, what would you say, Alex? It's almost to the end of the river. It's right next to the condos that are at the very end of the river.
Right next to the tiki bar there.
It's
Yeah, we're just south of Dublin Deck.
Patchogue Oil Terminal.
Yeah.
Do you have a stamped plan from the DEC?
This is the permit. We only have one copy of the permit from the DEC, so that's the problem
I
here.
will
We're
get
all,
you.
There should be
additional
stamped drawings.
copies.
quite frankly, this would require a little time to read through. I'm not the
You
second
can-
person to
On
see it.
sheet 1 of 3, you'll see a DEC stamp. And the cross-sectional detail has a approved stamp, and sheet 2 of 3 is also. You see up in the corner,
And so those DEC stamps can be.
up in the corner.
So basically, just to summarize the permit, the DEC has signed off on the dredging
Yes,
and the bulkhead replacement.
yes,
They're, I assume, wanting you guys to submit a stormwater pollution prevention plan for the duration of the construction itself?
no, because we're not disturbing greater than an acre, we're only regrading what's there, which is already disturbed in general.
All right.
So we're just, there was kind of some holes, so we're just regrading, really not doing much disturbance other than what's already there right now. No, they did.
I would just like to clarify, it's not so much dredging that we're doing, is where we're realigning the bulkhead with the property we bought from Davis years ago, is actually, we're just moving it back landward, so we're it's all jagged now, if you look at the
Right.
existing, and it's not so much dredging, the water there is extremely deep.
Yeah.
From all the barges and tugs that used to come in there. We're just looking to move it landward a small amount to align everything square, because it's all bumped in and out.
Right, to be able to get a
So
barge in
we're
there.
not moving out into the water, we're moving landward, and it's, I would just call it realigning the bulkhead, not so much dredging. But there is material coming out, which we already have a fill permit for the property from 2 years ago, and we would use that material to fill the upland.
How many cubic yards?
I think the 2,500 is
It was
what
about
it's
2,000
That's what we have a permit for
Right,
to fill now. For what we're applying for to reline the bulkhead, I think we're only gonna generate about 650 parts.
So you'll be getting deliveries of this plastic material for the bulkheading, that, in other words, how you're going over to Fire Island?
Yeah, any community over there where we have work, yes.
So, but you'll be getting, that will be your holding station, so to speak?
Yes,
staging
it will be our staging area, absolutely.
Staging area,
Correct.
and then you'll go over to wherever you have to go.
Yep.
So you'll be getting deliveries from the companies that you purchase from?
Yes.
Down River Avenue,
Yes.
which I would imagine would be large trucks?
Most of the trucks will be tractor trailers, yes.
So let's talk about that a little bit. How many of those we're gonna see a week?
Again, it's gonna fluctuate depending upon how much stuff we're doing over there.
Give me the
And-
worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario, I would anticipate per week, maybe 2 a day, 10 trailers a week, 2 a day.
that would be storm season.
Yeah.
What's really great, actually, right now, is during the summertime, they're really slow.
Well, that's not so great because there's an elementary school that's on the route they're gonna be traversing with those trucks.
May I add to that?
No, not right now. You get your chance.
So
Thank you.
ideally, if the traffic were during the summer and the school were not open, that would be the ideal situation. But you have to consider the fact that that school loads any time between 7 a.m. and 9:45 a.m. every morning, and then every afternoon unloads between 3 p.m. and 4 p.m. And the traffic that's generated by that school loading and unloading completely paralyzes the north end of River Ave. So we
Okay.
really would like to see some kind
I-
of realization for trucking.
I can say this, it probably, during a very busy week, again, it might be 2 to 3 trucks on any given, on one day in the morning. And these guys coming in, they unload themselves, sometimes there's nobody there, they have their own loading. But it's not gonna be like you're looking at a steady stream of tractor trailers running in there all day. Typically, our lumber comes out of Georgia or South Carolina, they load the night before, and they like to show up long before the sun comes up to get through the city, and they get in there, they have access to the property, we have an offset gate where they can pull in, and most of the time, not saying it's gonna happen all the time, but most of the time, those guys will show up, park, sleep, and then around 7 o'clock in the morning, unload, and then they'll ride right back out. I'm not saying it's gonna happen every time, but typically, stuff coming out of the south, the trucks get there. I know from experience in our area in Westhampton Beach, I pull in at 6:30 in the morning, and the trucks are already sitting.
And are their engines running while they're sitting there, or are their engines not running?
They're supposed to shut them off as per, the federal guidelines now. I can't say as to whether every individual driver adheres to that, but they're supposed to shut them off now.
There are two main entrances. There's an entrance on River Ave, and I believe on Crescent Street to the facility, but I assume
There is.
most of the trucks would come in off River.
Correct.
Yes, because that has the offset gate where they have enough room to pull off
Right.
the road, open the gate without impeding traffic.
Now, on site, you're obviously gonna take the lumber and store it on site, so how do you get it off the truck? You got a crane running there, or?
The drivers typically have what's called spiders, they typically unload themselves, or apprentices. That's what I was just alluding to before, they show up long before we might even get there, and they either have their own knuckle booms that put the piles off, unload themselves, or they have one of those forklifts that hang on the back of a tractor trailer, and they'll get the lumber off and put it on the ground. As far as loading the barge, we have all-wheel drive roll-off trucks, and we will reload onto our flatbeds, back it onto some land grass, or possibly load with the crane onto the barge from our station.
So we have a unique situation on the river here. Yes, this is the industrial, and yes, we know this could be put to use as of right use for things a lot worse than what you're gonna do down there, okay? Obviously, we're aware of that based on the zoning. The entire river is zoned the industrial and creates some very interesting problems and issues for people living there who are not in the industrial, but it does border the industrial. So our job here is to make sure that whatever use it is, that we can do everything possible to mitigate noise, pollution, safety, to make sure that safety is followed. So you have to understand where we're coming from in asking these questions. And I'm sure that the folks that are out in the audience are gonna have a few things to add to that, which is valuable input for us as well. We have looked at your permit and it is in order, according to council. Our concern is the activity on the site. So the activity on this site, essentially, this is a staging area, if I understand what you're saying here, a staging area for timber to be loaded onto barges, which is down at the river's end, right, obviously. And so you're gonna have probably like a high boy running around, picking the lumber up and bringing it down, kind of thing?
Yeah, within the property, yes.
Okay. Is there any other kinds of operations that go on the property? Is there any construction that takes place on the property where you would have machines, pneumatics, anything that's
The
going
only
on the highway?
construction that we anticipate taking place is what we're applying for now, is rebuilding our bulkhead, which we are in the marine construction business, and we plan on doing it ourselves. So right now, the only construction we anticipate happening at this point, applying to this board now, is just for the reconstruction and realignment of our bulkhead.
So you won't be prefabricating any structures to ship out?
No, no.
So beyond this work to the facility, the anticipated use of the premises will not involve construction work
No,
per
no,
se.
no.
Storage,
Storage only,
reloading.
offloading, loading
Do you have
barges,
plans for
trucks,
any
that's it.
permanent staging areas or storage areas for this lumber? Roofed over sheds, off the ground,
No.
There's nothing there.
no
Just
plans for
gravel.
that, basically just comes off and gets set down and
Because
out in the elements and,
Yeah.
it's out in the elements.
It's picked back up, reloaded on the barges, and we don't get paid for the material that we store there until it's installed somewhere. So we do the best we can to move it out and put it in somewhere where then we can apply for a payment.
Now, you had mentioned that you're gonna put in some arborvitae. I don't see that on the plan unless I'm
It's
missing.
on the fence landscape plan, they're two separate.
It's right on the corner of Crescent River, right up in
They
that
have it one
southwest
extra
corner.
copy if you'd
We
like.
have,
Arborvitae doesn't do well with soul spray.
no.
It's
That's
well in
far
there.
enough
It's up by the
away.
road.
It's by the road. Yeah, it's over
And
there.
that's a very benign area, there's very, very little, dynamic effects there, it's very protected.
You mentioned you're gonna be using this property for material that you're gonna be bringing over to use to, build whatever projects you have going on there. Will there be any use of this for demolition material that you remove from over there?
Coming back, that's a very valid question, and yes, I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of the work that we're doing over there, you're very right, does involve removal of materials that will come back there, and that will be barges coming back. After delivering new materials, the barges come back, and we'll be dropping off old materials, which will be very rapidly removed with dumpsters.
So you're bringing back container, you're gonna have container service, pick up
Yeah,
your containers
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
remove them from there.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna have stockpiles of.
No, you're not gonna see mounds of brick. We have done it in the last 3 years. The only reason we brought this up now is because we have bulkhead application, but we've been very diligent in cleaning everything up. As it comes, it goes out.
So you're gonna have let's say, permanent 20-yard containers there?
Exactly.
On a regular basis, that are
Exactly.
getting swapped
Because
out?
the last thing, again, we're in a business to try to make a few bucks. The last thing we want to do is rehandle this material that comes back from the beach 3 times. We make sure when it gets off the barge, we put it right into a container and it is done.
So you will be running a backhoe or something to?
Yeah, just to load it up. But then it's all during business hours, nothing's
That
gonna
has a
happen.
strong odor,
It depends upon what it is.
You're not
but most of the
necessarily-
time, once it's, I've lived on the bay for 35 years, I've gone through enough to know
Well,
that.
you've been through a lot of low tides and it's not much
No,
worse
but I
than
mean,
any
a lot
low
of
tide.
times when things are
Yeah.
removed, you get that
Yeah, and that's why we move it out
that
quick.
sediment, that,
Yeah, and also the marine growth, there's no doubt.
Occasionally it dries.
that's why I made,
away,
that's my, my question, and I just wanna make sure that it's,
Again, for us to stockpile stuff, it doesn't make economic sense, and my brother and I feel that we're very fairly decent in planning things and doing things the right way as far as dollar values work, and that's how we are successful at the doing stuff. So, again, the last thing we wanna do is rehandle material 3 times. If it comes off the barge, we put it right in there.
If you were to store those containers on the northern side of the property, right next to you is, there's really nothing there,
No, it's all woods.
it's all woods.
Yeah, between us
Which
and
would
Double
then keep that away from the folks who live on River Avenue and the
Yeah.
developments on Crescent Street.
No problem with it.
So we'd probably mark that in the plan.
That would be fine.
We'll have to mark it in the plan,
Yeah.
and get back to us as far as, where you should mark that in as to where those will be located, and that's where we'll expect to find them. The other question I have is this question on your property line fence. You show arborvitae essentially wrapping around the fence, those get kind of high, and that creates the ability for the truck driver to see out and see the northbound traffic coming up River Avenue, and then it also creates an issue for traffic coming out of Crescent Street. So we're gonna need to see a little bit more detail on your plan about that, and perhaps cutting that corner back so that it's, first of all, it's within the code of the village, which would mean it has to come back at least 15 feet, and then no higher than whatever the code calls for. And then what about to the north of the entryway? Is that still wooded, that area?
Yes.
And that's gonna remain in the natural state?
Yes.
But to the south, it's
Well, to the south, it was an overgrown enough where we did have to disturb some of it to replace the existing fence. And that's what generated some animosity in the neighborhood, which I can understand. But we could not install the new fence without disturbing some of the growth. If you go there now, since we've done the fence, it's already 3/4 of the fence again already with just what's growing in the weeds.
Ms. Kelly is right, arborvitae A doesn't do very well. You might want to look into some kind of alternate plantings other than arborvitae. It especially doesn't do well with salt water, that's for sure.
Okay.
You're gonna get a lot of salt water down there, and there's no sense of putting anything in that's gonna die in a year, or maybe not take it all.
Well, whatever growth is growing in now is doing real
It's
well.
growing naturally right now.
Yeah,
Had to drive down.
but that's not a row of arborvitae.
No, it's not, it's certainly
So-
not.
And that's what you're proposing, and that's what we're gonna hold you to, so
Okay.
you might wanna check that out. Now, the rest of this fence is vinyl slatted fence?
No, it's
Chain link?
it's
It's
all
just
new,
a giant
it's
chain
all new
link.
vinyl clad chain link without the slats.
How high is that fence?
6 foot.
6 feet.
And what color will it be?
It's green.
It's green. It's already there, it's existing.
I haven't seen the property.
Can you provide a little more detail where the bulkhead, I guess from the Suffolk Boat Club, I guess that's their bulkhead, and where your property meets in this corner, right here? How's that gonna be, is there a return here, is it just come up to it? You come approach. This corner right here, this is not your property, right? This is your property. This is going to be the new bulkhead, this is the existing bulkhead?
Yeah, this is our property right here.
This is your property?
Yes, this property was the old Davis property.
Okay,
And this bulkhead is all new. We got a permit, we did this bulkhead. This bulkhead here, we just want to make it a straight line and square all this up, it's all in there.
so you're gonna connect on?
Exactly.
Okay, that's fine. All right, now we understand.
Thank you.
So this is the Davis piece here. This is the new piece, okay.
Yeah, the Davis piece where we own under a company called Chester Dock,
And then this,
and the big piece is Harborside.
this building that's shown here, is that the Suffolk Boat Club, or is that your building?
We have a small barn that was existing on Davis property, that's probably ours.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. Well, there is a barn, there is a building shown here. There is a building shown here.
Yes, that's ours.
So there's two buildings on
This,
property.
this building here is something.
Suffolk Boat Club, okay.
Yep. And that building is right on our property.
Right, okay, well, it would be.
Yeah.
Carol, just for confirmation, this whole piece is the industrial, right?
Yes,
So it could be on the line.
yes.
Yeah, yep.
This would be for their property line.
To the drawer, just that the Davis piece is that curved piece. And then the other stuff is the old Patchogue Village.
And then the rectangular piece is the boat.
Yep.
Right. Okay, let's, anybody else have any other questions to the applicant at this time?
You mentioned earlier that there was enough room for a tractor trailer to pull off of River Ave and get onto your site.
Nope.
From the way this looks, this gate's pretty close to the river.
It is offset, it may have been for this.
I mean, would a driver have to leave the truck on river, get out, open the gate, and then pull in?
Yes, oh, absolutely, oh, yes,
Yes.
no doubt about that.
Would it be possible to move the gate further into the property?
We certainly
pull
could
right
do
off
that,
the road?
if we could get a permit to do that, we could move the gate 45 feet in, which would allow a tractor trailer.
Pull right in, then you can get out and do whatever he wants to
And
do.
without a truck sticking out.
I just think any time of day, if a tractor trailer sitting on River Ave.
Yeah.
Put the fence on, so-
Well, we just have to move the gates into.
Slide the gate in enough to
Yeah, we have
accommodate a
enough
tractor
room,
trailer.
we have enough room to do that.
Yeah, do side gate,
Yeah.
side
And
fence
if
as
you
well.
want us to reapply, we can certainly do it with that. I understand the concern, and it's very valid.
Now, the rest of this property is dirt,
Yep.
so vehicles traveling over dirt can create dust.
That, fortunately, I can answer that pretty well. Fortunately, there's still, the whole concrete roadway coming into the property is still there and valid right through that gate that you're speaking of. As far as dust goes, we've done the same thing at our property in Westhampton. We've put up sprinklers to mitigate dust. If it becomes a problem, we have no problem doing that. We have city water there. It comes into the property. If I don't plan on doing it, but there's not gonna be a lot of activity like there is in our place in Westhampton where we crunch concrete, we spring dirt, we put sprinklers up. Here, I don't think there's gonna be enough activity to warrant that. If there is, again, we wanna be the best neighbors as possible. Our property in Westhampton is bordering residential neighborhood, and we try to be the best neighbors that we can. It works best that way. There's no controversy, everybody's happy. And if we had to put in some sort of dust remediation as sprinklers or something like that, we certainly wouldn't be adverse to doing that.
Could you also please note where the lumber is going to be stored on the property? Where the intended storage locations are for the lumber, as well as the intended locations of the dumpsters, so that we know. And then you could also draw in a sprinkle field, just, note where the sprinkler heads are gonna be in their coverage area, so that we don't have a dust cloud coming up from the property. And/or you have the option of doing some kind of semi-permeable surface, because obviously, we wanna keep the dust down, so I think sprinklers are probably less expensive than bluestone.
A little bit.
Would your material be stored on any kind of rack or anything like that, or you just sit around?
No, we set it on dunnage, so forth, but we don't need it.
See what-
It doesn't stay there that long.
It doesn't,
Is this facility manned during the day, or only when you need to be there?
only when we need to be there. It's not like our office, our main offices are in the same place, so it would be sporadic.
Typically, how many staff would arrive on the site in the morning to go to work?
Two guys just to get on the board, yeah.
So not a lot of truck, not a lot of
No,
vehicles?
oh, no. Only the transportation from all the materials gets transported from there. Our guys actually meet at Field 5 at Robert Moses to go down the beach.
Mhm.
We're allowed to move the crew down the beach, but as per the National Park Service, we have to bring all materials by one. So it would be just the captain and the first mate who would show up.
So, let's shift our attention a little bit to the water now. So you have one barge or one boat that you typically will leave docked at this facility? I mean, when it's there, is it one, is it two?
Well, we have 5 barges, we have 3 landing crafts, we have 3 crew boats, but they're spread all over the Northeast. I mean, one of our landing crafts is in Maine right now. I can give you a whole list of what we own at any one
No, I
time.
don't need that, but what I do need for you to do is I do need, when you come back with the updated plan, to show me the note where the parking space or the docking spaces would be that you would have laid out on the pad.
Well, then, we would have to do that on what we're proposing in the bulkheads, because that's why we're
Yeah,
trying to.
absolutely.
So we'll overlay that on what our proposed plan is, not what's existing.
Not what's existing, I don't care about
Okay, all
what's
right.
existing is existing, I'm
Yeah.
concerned about what you're gonna be doing.
Yeah, okay.
So if you could draw in, exactly where those holes are gonna be for docking, or actually draw in a barge as to
Mhm.
how they would lay out that would be appreciated, because we wanna make sure that, you know, we don't get this area jammed up with 5 boats. I know you probably will never get 5 boats in there,
Unfortunately, we own all the bay bottom there too. But, you know, it's still under your jurisdiction, I guess, even though it is underwater. But we own right out to the Patchogue River. But, we will indicate that.
I would appreciate that.
No problem.
Anybody else have any questions before we hear from the public?
What is like the largest ship that you propose that you'd be using?
Our largest barge is 30 by 90. Our typical, most useful vessel is what's called an LCM-8, which is actually a landing craft. That's why we're asking. We already have a low sill bulkhead there where we can load and unload the landing craft. We're asking for another one over another corner, which we've indicated, and that's 24 by 74. And that's self-propelled. The barges, obviously, we have a little push button that moves the barges on.
The self-propelled boat, what kind of draft do they have?
The big landing craft has about 5 feet unladen, probably about 6.5 laden. And the small landing craft, which is 15 by 56, is only about 2.5 feet.
This is one of the deepest parts of the river, the water's.
Oh, yeah, that
tremendously deep.
It is right here because of the turnaround from the.
Yeah.
For those who aren't familiar, the river's cut way in
Right.
to the west here. It's like sort of like it's nowhere near the navigable channel, the federal
Except
channel.
for the ferries, except right at the mouth of the river.
Well, coming out, it's like the
Coming out.
ferries, no boats would ever go in here.
No, I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying at some point, you'll have to.
Well, we come in and out, we have to navigate.
Right.
You know, my guys are fairly professional.
Oh, no, I'm sure. I mean, just to work around their
Yes.
schedule, because they don't like to be.
Just so some people might not be familiar with actually the cut of the river, where this actually is.
At 6.5 feet, you're gonna have a tough time. Let me tell you.
We're used to it.
Okay, you're gonna cut a new channel.
Well,
It's like the old
we
barges.
plan around the tide every time. Everywhere we go, we gotta plan around the tide. I mean, there's guys that go out at 2 o'clock in the morning and catch the right tide, so we got the right load for the guys.
Okay, as long as you're aware of it.
No,
I don't think it's much more than 6.
It was dredged to 7 feet at mean low water, but that's gotta be almost 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
I heard somebody today with a 10s or 22, draws maybe 4 feet, ran around near the mouth of the river. So it's shoaling a little bit, I think, unfortunately.
We'll have this in Sandy.
well, maybe you guys wanna put out a contract for somebody to dredge it, we'll give them a price.
Yeah.
Take a
Well,
spin
actually, the
on
last
that.
time we did that, we used this property.
I know you
to
did.
dry out the dirt, so it won't be available right now.
Well, maybe we can make it available, depending upon your decision.
Okay, does anybody else have any questions? You understand what we've asked so far?
Yes.
We're gonna find
Yes,
out.
I have some.
I'm sure we have an enthusiastic public here, and they may have to come up with a few additional things we need to consider. So you folks can have a seat.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And I will entertain at this time anyone who wishes to speak for or against the application. You can come forward 2 at a time. If there's anybody who'd like to come forward and speak, now's your time. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Laferty. I work with Fairfield Properties. Our offices are at 538 Broad Hollow Road in Melville, New York. I'm here tonight to represent Fairfield on the Bay. It's a 132-unit residential apartment complex that we own, which is directly across the street, Crescent Street, from the applicant. Over the past 7 years, Fairfield has made significant investment in that property. I feel we've been a good neighbor, a responsible property owner. We replaced 600 feet of our own bulkhead. We put 2,000 linear feet of force main up River Road, connected to the village sewer district. We demolished our sewer treatment plant. We made significant improvements to landscaping and other parts of the property. Obviously, it sounds like the applicant is considering intensifying the operations that are gonna happen across the street. And we obviously share the same concerns as the board does about the additional trucking, diesels idling at night at 4 o'clock in the morning, the carting trucks coming in and out. And again, our concern is any adverse impact that it could have on our residents, 132 residents. I'm well aware, I recognize the board is aware of this, the chairman himself stated it. So I just respectfully request your consideration of these factors when you review this application. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming down. Anyone else wish to come up and speak? Sir?
Good evening. Good evening, Chairman Rocco, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I'm formerly a developer.
Your name and address, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Paul Rotundi, 9 Midvale Court, East Northport, 11731. I'm a former developer. As a matter of fact, Stephen here is managing the property that I built in 1973. Just to regress a little bit, Mayor Walbauer at that time was in charge of the village, Jack Rogers was in the building department. I received all kinds of accolades about the way we proceeded with our project. One of the things that dismays me is that I'm hearing questions being asked and ad-lib answers being thrown back. But that has to be in a specification, some kind of an outline that holds them to what they're saying they're gonna do. Now, I looked at the E-industrial zoning, and then there are prohibited uses specifically for the E-zoning. Yet I hear materials, they may have acetylene torches, which are probably gonna be required for certain demolition. There was no conversation about, has there ever been a soil test done on this property? Because if you recall, this originally was an oil depot. And I know for a fact that there's been numerous oil spills on this property. There were barges, oil barges, that really had to have some very good captains to maneuver the corner of my project in order to get themselves into the depot to unload their cargo.
Absolutely.
Right? So I'd like to see some of that stuff addressed as to whether there is an oil pollution situation here, whether any soil samples taken.
Sorry, I could quickly ask that question. There have been numerous soil samples taken on this property over the years.
They have?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that takes care of that. So we don't have to worry about the
It was
contamination.
Superfund claims,
All right, very good. Now, we're talking about this firm that's primarily taking care of storm damages and things like that. That means a lot of debris is gonna come on this property. And I heard, oh, it'll only be there for a couple of days. But what if it's not there for a couple of days? What if it's there for a long time? How do you reinforce that?
Well, enforcement is not our job, however, laying out the site plan is our job, and making sure that those things are included in,
Right.
and that's why we ask those questions,
Okay.
so that any approval this board may or may not give would have specific instruction with it.
I appreciate
So
that.
that's the answer to your question on all
So a
those.
site plan has not been submitted yet?
We have a site plan before us, but it's gonna need to be revised,
All right,
obviously.
does the site plan give any specifics as to, like you asked a good question, where's the lumber gonna be installed?
Not at this time, we're not ready to
Trailer
approve
trucks
any.
definitely cannot pull up to that there
No.
westerly gate
It's
and not sit out in the middle of
it's
the
not
road.
there right now, that's why we have the hearing. So
Right.
we take input from the board, we take input from yourself, and then the applicant will come back with those things firmly on this.
All right, very good. So the entrance that's on the westerly side of this property, which will be accessed by vehicles coming up River Avenue, there is no way that a truck can pull into that entrance gate and not be parked out in the middle of the road. It's only
As it
about
stands
15,
right now.
it's only about 15, 20 feet to the gate.
However, the intent from the board is to require that to be revised, so
I
that it
understand.
can be done.
So I just want to have clear understanding that what they're saying is going to be put in writing, so it can be
Absolutely.
enforced.
That's our job.
Is there any kind of a performance bond being required to make sure that the work that they say they're gonna do is gonna get done?
They won't get a certificate of occupancy, they won't get permission to go ahead with their business until it's done.
All right, so
The CO, obviously,
you'll
they'll need a
hold up
CO.
the C of O in the event that they don't complete.
That's
Now, they
standard
mentioned-
practice.
Right. They mentioned planting arborvitae plantings. Does it say how big they are?
Yeah, that's.
4 foot on 4 foot.
Well, we're-
With 4 foot, if it's in ball, when you bury it, it's 2 foot.
Now, we want more definition on it. We did
Right.
ask the applicant
That's
for
what
more
we-
definition.
That's my concern. It's like, I hear too much ad-libbing as to what we're gonna do, what we're not gonna do.
And that's precisely why we asked for more detail.
Great. There are 32 apartments on Crescent, plus another 8, so that makes it 40, that are facing on Crescent.
Right.
Now, are you ready to get the complaints about the big heavy equipment being started up at 6 o'clock in the morning? Because they're not gonna start it at night to
There's
get the
curfew.
fire island at 10.
There are curfew codes in effect for the village, you can't do certain things before certain hours.
All right, so,
If
but
they don't abide by those laws, they could be cited for that.
all right, so, I mean, that's being addressed, that you can't start up
Well, that's already
before a
addressed,
certain hour.
it's in the code of the village of Patchogue.
All right, I'm not totally familiar with the code of Patchogue, I'm just looking at what are the possibilities of
Right.
problems. I also own 3 additional acres besides what I built on as the apartments.
So you own that property on Crescent Street, you own that piece on Crescent Street?
Yes, the 3 acres.
Right.
And I have plans already in the works for developing that as a residential parcel. So I want to be, aware of what's going to come out across the street that can endanger my investments. Now, I'm not trying to stop their operation.
Right.
But I don't want them to just run it willy-nilly without any kind of enforcement,
No, that's reasonable.
right? The other thing is, well, they have heavy equipment on the job, they got cranes, will all the booms be dropped whenever they bring a crane back to the property, or the boom's gonna be standing up? Planting we took care of, and performance might be. That's basically, what I'd be concerned about.
We appreciate
How
it.
do you hold their feet to the fire for what they represent verbally, but is not put into any kind of specification sheet?
We put, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, we put, when we make a decision, we put all of that in the decision. And then it is up, if the applicant does not follow through, then it is up to the code enforcement or the village building inspector to go down. It's out of our hands at that point, but we try to vet all the questions that you have. We try to ask every single applicant, every type of question from environmental, right down the line.
Okay.
And then we base our decision on public input and the village laws and,
And Madam Kelly, when they finish the site plan, will it be open again to the public to look at?
Absolutely, anything is.
So there will be another hearing if there's.
they'll be back.
Thank you
They'll
very
be
much.
coming back. At some
Anytime you
point.
want me to come back.
No, they'll be coming back.
Oh,
You're welcome to come back. You
Thank
can come
you.
every month if you like.
all right. Will there be another public notice sent out?
No.
So how will I be able to monitor when it's coming back for a hearing?
I would suggest you just give the building department a call, and if they're gonna come down, if it's gonna be adjourned, we assume they're gonna come back next month.
Okay, very good.
If not, they may skip a month. We do not allow applications to go longer than 3 months once they've been adjourned.
All right, very good.
We meet on the 4th Tuesday of every month, except for unusual circumstances, holidays, et cetera.
Very
So
good.
the next meeting would be
Thank you.
Tuesday, August 25th.
Again, I'm not against progress, because I've been a developer all my life, but I want to make sure that we don't destroy the environment that we're living in. Thank you.
Thanks for coming down. Anyone else like to come up and speak before we get to the application? Mr. Bojack?
Good evening, everybody.
How are you finding this?
Madam Kelly, I like that. John Bojack, 8 Madison Street. I used to live at Fair Harbor. I'm familiar with this area. It took me a while to figure out where this is going in, but now I know where it is. And I guess it's a good use. But I have experience with diesel trucks, and I think that's something that the board really needs to look at. And I think the experience, I think what should actually occur is a instruction or stipulation to the owner to make sure that these guys know that when they show up, those engines ought to be shut. My experience with the brewery, which is right next to me, informs me about this. I've had about a dozen incidents with diesel trucks. Yes, as the owner pointed out, these guys show up at all sorts of hours, they're on a schedule, they're followed by GPS, they gotta get to where they gotta get to go. But I can have a guy showing up at 10 p.m. who's gonna be doing an 8 o'clock operation at the brewery, because that's okay. When you talk to these guys, they're gonna say, well, everybody knows I'm coming here, and no one's got an issue except for you. And then when you try to call code enforcement out, first of all, depending upon the time of the day, it might be a while before somebody comes out. And that diesel truck at night is kind of loud. And then there are all sorts of excuses, including, it's the winter time. Hey, I gotta have my engine on because I'm gonna freeze to death. So, now we got the code enforcement officer faced with human circumstances. There's a hard-working guy, he's gonna freeze to death. What happens? The engine stays on. That's what happens. That's the reality of things. So, one way of getting that out of the way might be is if the owner here tells those drivers, when you show up at my property, those engines go off. That at least gives the resident some possible leg to stand on when they call code enforcement, because they might wind up doing that. So, that's my only suggestion about this. It's maybe not the best use, I'm sure there are other uses that could be louder, more dramatic, more traffic filled, blah, 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 we all know that. But I think there is a quality of life issue, and from my own experience, when you have that diesel truck at 10 p.m., 1 a.m. in the morning, 3 a.m. in the morning, 4 a.m. in the morning, it drives you crazy.
Thank you, Mr. Bogack. Anyone else wish to speak? Please come forward, say your name and address for the record, tell us what's on your mind. Thanks for coming down.
Hi, Board. My name is Susan Van Lin. I live at 183 Fair Harbor Drive in Patchogue. I am not against the use per se, but I am concerned about the trucks, the traffic, the parking. There's no way that that truck can make that turn in that gate without the setback. And I'm also a little concerned about what it's gonna look like, because the overgrown lot that it was before the new fence went in looked 100% better than it does with the new fence, where now you can see everything that's laying out and it looks like a construction site. So I would, as a resident of Fair Harbor, would appreciate if there would be some kind of nice planting and a setback of that fence.
You're absolutely right.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else wish to speak? No one else wishing to speak, for or against? Okay, the applicants can get back up. I have a couple of questions that I think you need to detail on the plan. One big thing we missed, which is another form of possible pollution, and it's called lighting. Obviously, in the wintertime, it gets dark at 4 o'clock. Now, I know you're not, you did say that sometimes you're working early in the morning. Can you talk about the lighting? You're gonna need to see a lighting plan as to ensure that all the lighting on this facility is gonna stay on this facility and not shine in the neighbor's yards.
We don't have any plans on putting any lighting there.
Yeah, the only lights will be on the machines,
Okay.
on the forklift or on the boat.
There's no lighting there right now.
There's no lighting
There,
whatsoever.
there might be a few.
Yeah, there's one light on the back of the building, that's all.
But that
What's
shines
there
into
now,
your
It
property.
shines towards the water, actually.
What's there now, we don't plan on augmenting, that's been pre-existing for use.
And I wanted to add about the traffic before, the tractor trailers don't come past these.
We don't have your name and address.
Okay, I'm Alex Allen, part owners of the property.
And your address?
56 South Country Road, Westhampton Beach.
Okay. Now you can speak.
Now I can speak. When we can't make that turn off of Montauk Highway on the River Avenue with a tractor trailer, so they go around the circle and down towards the bowling alley and turn left, so we don't even go past the elementary school. I just wanted to add that in.
Yes, you don't ever see big trucks coming down there.
Yeah.
But because of the angle of that turn coming down Waverly, you just can't do it.
That's what I wanted to add.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, so you have a list, and we'll send you a list of what we'd like to see included on the plan. You heard the input from the public. If there's any attention that you want to put on the plan for that, would be good, and, we'll see you back here next month.
How soon do we have to have the new site plan application in?
You should have it to us for the next work session.
So can we bring it that evening, or should we have this?
Yeah,
sent
sure,
over?
bring it to the work
Session
session.
is the same as the hearing.
So bring it the same night.
Okay,
At 6:30.
okay, so we don't have to send you
That's fine.
a package within 2
23rd of
weeks.
August.
Okay.
Okay.
As far as the trees are concerned, what do you guys suggest we do? I mean, because,
Should we get to a landscape? Yeah.
Okay.
No, I do the landscape.
Okay,
I do
good.
the landscape. I do need a landscape design, don't worry.
all right.
And we'd like to see something that softens the look to the neighbors.
Yeah,
Okay, now, I do
right.
have one question, was it?
No bamboo.
No, I'm an environmental consultant, I do landscape design, native. Question, the fence, is that an issue in the corner, or is it just the landscaping?
Depends on how high the fence is and how close it is to the
Well,
corner.
it's already there, it's 6 feet.
Doesn't matter.
And
If
well,
it's too close to the corner, it's gonna have to be cut down.
Well, we put it right where the other one was, I guess that doesn't matter.
Those were old sins, these are new sins. You can't deal with old sins, but you can certainly deal
All
with
right,
new
so
ones.
I guess we'll have to look at it.
So what we're gonna have to do is maybe get somebody from the building department to down.
There's a road and a fence.
Yeah.
And then, obviously we wanna redraw on the gate in depth enough
The 45 feet in, yes, I got that.
so that any vehicles can pull all the way in
Without sitting on the road.
without sitting on the road.
Yep.
And if you have to angle that, you do what you gotta do.
Yep, absolutely.
And then the sprinklers,
Is this site accessible if we want to go down and look at it, or is it locked?
It's generally locked.
It's locked, but it's a combination, we can furnish you the combination, you wanna walk in there. Yeah, or if you wanna get a hold of any of us, we can certainly, if anybody wants to come down and walk the property, that'd be great. We love you folks.
20-minute,
Yeah, if you guys want to come down and see, we'd love to have you.
Yeah.
I mean, all in all, we're improving the site considerably.
Right.
I mean, the bulkhead's going down.
no, there's no question about that part, absolutely,
And it sounds like you're concerned about the nature aspect of it. the
Oh,
planting.
absolutely.
Well, some kind of activity has to happen there, I mean, we've invested a lot of money on the property, we're just trying to be as good
Oh,
neighbors
no, I
as possible.
understand
But at
that.
the same time, you can certainly understand the concerns.
Absolutely.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
they're absolutely valid,
Yep,
and we have to make sure we address those things to
No
the best
doubt.
of our ability.
no doubt.
And at the same time, the neighbors gotta understand it's an industrial piece of property. And just about anything short of a tannery can go on the industrial property, and you sure as heck wouldn't want a tannery on that property, or a slaughterhouse or something
Well,
like
if you read
that.
the
Not that we do those things these days here, but certainly it could be done as an as-of-right use. So
Yeah.
this is a very tightrope we have to walk here. on where
It's a
it's
tough
piece of
job.
property.
Yes.
And until such time as the riverfront is rezoned, which will probably not be in anyone's lifetime here, it's the issue that we have to confront.
Yep.
And a lot of residences will put on this an industrial piece. Probably yours, the development to the south, was probably the industrial.
I'm sure it was, you look at some of the old pictures you have around the walls here,
Yeah.
there wasn't condos there was big industrial sites on all those properties.
So,
My assumption is that since you haven't really done any work on this site at this point, you're still gonna do some site cleanup to address the concern of the woman from Fairfield on the Bay.
Oh, absolutely. And as I mentioned before, I'm not blowing smoke. We have a very large facility in Westhampton Beach where we started the business, my dad did in '68. And we are right along a residential piece of property. We're, same thing, we're zone industrial, residential right next on the other side of our fence line. And we get along with the neighbors great. They know that we've been there for 40 years, and we address the concerns as they come up, and we try to mitigate those concerns. I mean, it's not like we've been in the middle of Medford somewhere where we've been in a cocoon of industrial property. We're used to it, and we try to be very good neighbors.
There'll be no more noise there than there is from the boatyards around. When I work on the site, all I hear is all the travel lifts all day long, and outboard motors running. So it won't be that loud.
we're where there's a lot of noise pollution on the river.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, but it's not gonna add to it at all. Our brains are
We're
very
just
quiet.
trying to mitigate
Right,
any
more.
new operation.
Right.
And that is probably that is the last big chunk of property on the river.
Right.
And probably the use you're giving it is probably the least impacted.
Yeah, we don't have plans on building a marina or taking in charter boats or anything like that.
So
So
we've heard all kinds of stories and plans for that piece of property, everything from, a 10-story hotel to, again, to marinas.
Well, we can do that.
And a casino, we're gonna throw in everything.
I think we'd be in here for a lot more applications if we decided to do that.
I think the good definitely outweighs the bad with function of this particular piece of property. And it's to rebuild and help people protect their properties, and that's why they're here. And I actually know people, the neighbors, just adjacent to their site in Westhampton on Peters Lane. It's an entire residential neighborhood, and they love them. Not one complaint, it's quiet, you don't hear that.
Okay, we won't take any more time.
Thank you.
Before you go, does anyone left have a question from the Wood, okay. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the application to a future
So
meeting.
moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, so carried.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next month. Appreciate it.
Jim? Jim? What is your question? This is the industrial, right? Can't put a can in here.
You can't put a tan, so you can't put a tan on it.
All right.
It's one of the few things you can't.
Thank you.
JCL Public, Jason Brand, 87 West Avenue, Seeker Commission Construction. We'll wait till we rumble out the parking lot. The Brand family, 87 West Avenue, Seeker Commission